Hi, welcome to Chili Smith. Twyla, come on over here and see what I did.
What have you got cooking today?
Look what I made.
Is that pumpkin? Wait, we're not a pumpkin shop. What is that?
What do? We sell
beans.
This is a bean pie.
No.
And I've just loved learning about it. It's one of those things I've procrastinated on for years, you know.
They have a long history, don't they?
Huge. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit when we make this, but now I know you don't do the crust. But what I love is the custard filling that comes with it without crust. So you can do a crustless, and look how nice it looks. Look at the beauty of that.
Almost like bread pudding, but bean. Yeah, that texture is gorgeous.
What I learned is that it isn't difficult to do with beans.
Okay.
It's absolutely delicious. It does have a marvelous American history that I really like a lot.
Okay.
Including one of my heroes in life is Muhammad Ali, and he helped make this famous for them, for the Nation of Islam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just has so much richness to it. And what I really like is that I made it according to some of the recipes that I found online.
Looking online, okay.
Yeah, there is a woman who actually was Elijah Muhammad's cook. She cooked for him.
Wow.
Her name was Lana Shiraz, I believe. Shabazz is how her name is pronounced. She cooked for him, and she later cooked for Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
And made this in a healthy thing. This whole thing, and the reason I wanted you to see it, is that when you look at the ingredients that are going to go into it, it may not look so healthy. The beans are absolutely wonderful, as you know.
Definitely.
But it has this wonderful potential to be Twyla-ized into a veganized world.
The Twyla zone. Let's put it in the Twyla zone.
There.
I'm ready. You give me a challenge. I'd like to veganize it. You bet I do.
Well, I'm going to show you how I made it this way, and then next segment, you'll show us what we're going to do next. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us, folks. This is the pie, and you can see I baked this yesterday, and Mrs. Chili, that would be Dale Smith, said, well, you're not leaving the house until I get a slice or two. And she asked for one slice and ended up taking 2 or 3 maybe. But anyway, we've got this to the side, and we wanted you to see it. We will be making some pies, and I'm going to take you through this, part of which we've already discussed with Twyla. So we like to look at the history of foods, where they came from, because there are stories. The stories that we share, the stories that you share with us, are what we call bean stories. This one, bean pie, is a rich, wonderful American story, and the story that I discovered is this. Now, I think it probably had its roots prior to 1930s, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he's the founder of the Nation of Islam here in America. And in the Detroit area, in New York, in Brooklyn, in Philadelphia, in cities like that, he was working with people on their spiritual development and their life history. And some of you that know me know that, you know, that at one point in my life I did a little work around spirituality and church. And I so admire what he was doing, because the reason this pie was developed is that the woman who cooked for him listened to his story when he was going, well, our people are eating this sweet potato pie, and all it is it's filled up with the wrong kind of foods. It's good, it's delicious, but it's the wrong kind of foods and has a lot of sugar. So his cook, Lana, took that to do something about it, and she developed a navy bean pie. And at that time, it was just navy beans. The calling was for a small white bean, and so she used navy beans. Probably because she didn't know Chili Smith. If she had, she'd probably be using heirloom beans. So when I looked at duplicating what she did, I found the wrong recipe. So what you're gonna see is part of that story, and we're gonna continue to develop this with Twyla to make it healthier, to make it good. But remember, rule 1 around here is it's got to be delicious. It's important that it's healthy, but it's got to be delicious. And so that's what we did. I had never made it before, and so we're going to go through those steps with you so you can see what I did. Any of our beans work well with this dish. It does not have to be a navy, because we don't care. The beans don't care. I made this one, when considering the beans that I could, I decided to make it with our baby lima bean, which is also known as a butter bean. And the reason that I did is because it's a small white bean, as a small navy would be. It has the cooking characteristics that we like a lot and cooks it up. I also would, I'm going to show you some that we made with Perjuano beans. Now, Perjuano is a Peruvian bean that was, as most beans were, it was well traveled and moved to Mexico, central and southern Mexico. And then we grow it here in Sacramento Valley. It grows extremely well. What we love about this bean is that it will get larger, it will get tender, but it will not shed its skin or fall apart. Now, I'm going to do that because I'm going to mash it, but it'll be there. So we're going to look at these two beans today. Any of these would work well. I can't wait to do this same pie with our black garbanzo. Twyla, I'm thinking I'm going to do this black garbanzo in a pie. What do you think?
Let's do it.
I think it'd be great. Speckled bayo would be another one that I would consider because it's cranberry-like in its characteristics. So I'm going to put these behind us so you can see what we're doing here. And we'll get started. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is in the recipe is if you're cooking traditionally, meaning that you're water bath cooking, you just want to soak your beans in overnight. We always say overnight. Well, what that means really is soak the beans until the flesh of the bean has had enough opportunity to reabsorb some water. The best way to look at that is what's overnight? For some people, that's 3 hours. For some people, like me, it might be 9. So you need to really know what that is. You want to look at the beans and make sure that the wrinkles are gone. Beans are just the opposite of us. When we're in a bathtub too long, we're going to get wrinkly. When the beans still have wrinkles, it means they need more time to soak. The skin has grown faster to make room for the water that's going into the flesh. It's just that simple. So just look at your beans and you do that. Then rinse your beans and get ready and put them with an inch or two of water on a stove in a heavy bottom pot and begin your cook. Bring them to a simmer and let them cook. They'll cook in about 40 minutes to an hour. Now, we do cook that way a lot, and we like it. But we also, through the magic of having electronic pressure cookers, the modern electronic pressure cookers, we're able to take our beans and cook them from beginning to end in less than an hour. And so we're going to bring some out that we already have. And these are the beans. Now what we did is we do this by measurement. For each cup of beans, and in this case it's 2 cups of beans, we're doing 2.5 by water. So this has 2.5 cups of water. It cooked for 40 minutes. The beans are nice and tender. They're still warm, ready to go. And I'm going to leave the aquafaba. This is a word I learned from Twyla. Before pre-Twyla, I didn't know aquafaba. It was just good old bean broth to me then. But now it's aquafaba. Don't I sound good? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the beans. I like to start with them warm that way. Some folks say take the bean, rinse the bean, and we think that the aquafaba has a lot of value to it. Not only is it where a lot of the flavor is, it also is where a lot of the nutrition is. So we're going to leave that aquafaba and we're going to cut back on some other items that you might find on the recipe. And the recipe that we're using for this will be attached to this email. So we're going to start with that. Now, since Twyla is going to be so happy with me, the first thing I'm going to do is you put an entire cube of butter into your warm beans. Then you're going to take your handy dandy, you're going to begin to break your beans down. Now this will take a couple of minutes. The aroma is just fabulous. All right, so when we get our beans about halfway through, what we're going to do is we're going to add 4 whole eggs. And we're just going to put those into the mix. We're going to add a teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour. Now I'm just dumping it all in there directly so that we can just get on with it. And then what we're going to do is go back to blending. Now we've blended a little bit more, and the beans are completely dissolved, as you can see within this. The next thing we're going to add is 1 can of evaporated milk. Now, the recipe that you look at will say, oh, it's a 14.5 ounce can of evaporated milk. Well, those aren't made anymore. What it is now it's a 12.5 ounce as things are. You ever notice that? Rolls of toilet paper get more. Anyway, we're going to do that. Now the recipe calls for 2 cups of granulated sugar. And Twyla said you're not using any sugar on that. So I poured out, I was going to cut it in half and put to put 1 cup. But what she asked me to do was to use, like, you tell me when, girl, I'm going to start adding honey. Look at this beautiful, this is locally grown Carmichael honey. Is that a 1/4 cup?
I think so.
All right. Woo, that looks good. Oh, that honey is good. All right, so no sugar now. Now what we're doing is in our mash, we're just going to blend it up. Okay, and our blend is done. When we're finished, this batter is going to be a very thin consistency. It doesn't look like it's thick. It's kind of like when we make pumpkin pie from scratch. It's real thin, but it'll thicken itself up as we go. And then we're ready for the shells. So now we're ready to go, and we're ready to fill it. Now, some of the folks in their recipes say take this and refrigerate it overnight. Now, and I think that we will do that as well. Not today, but we will do that. The reason for that is that it's the same as it is with our chili and it is with our bean products, is that once they've had an opportunity to get into the refrigerator and they stay there overnight and they do a little dance, and it's all better the next day. That's why the leftover chili is always better. The only thing not would be maybe Twyla's salad. But everything else, once it's refrigerated overnight, does a little dance in there. We have no idea what goes on when the lights are out, but it gets better. This might be the same, but what I'm going to do is pour it right into the shell. Now, full disclosure, I didn't make the shells. Fuller disclosure, the original recipe called for a crust that is made from whole wheat, and I'm going to do another segment on that so that we can show the authentic crust, because it is healthy. This we picked up at the grocery store. It's a Pillsbury product and it's wonderful. It works very, very well for our pies. However, it's important to do this. Put it in your oven ahead of time. Okay, so we're going to pour this into our shell, and we're not going to bring it to the top. We're going to bring it and leave ourselves a little bit of head space, because it's a custard type fill, so it is going to rise. We have our oven set at 350 degrees, and we want to place this in our middle or upper rack so that the bottom does not burn. So we're just going to gently slide that in. Then we turn around, and here it is, completed. So that's what the pie is going to look like when it's completed. This one is the one that did survive Mrs. Smith when we cooked it at Casa de Chile last night. It'll be going home, but it is magnificent in aroma, magnificent in product. So we encourage you to do that. We love the fact that this custard is so healthy and so good. And you don't have to serve it with a crust. Now, I took some that I had leftover batter. And you can see I have enough batter in that recipe that you're going to see to where it'll easily fill 2 deep dish shells and still leave you left over. So what I did with mine is I just poured it in a stainless steel and put it in the oven as well for non-crust people like maybe Twyla. And then what we're able to do is just dish out from that so people can use it as a deal. And strangely enough, around the house last night and around the shop today, people have wandered by and smelled it. The cinnamon, the nutmeg, it's just magnificent. And they start eating it. So it's delicious. So That's what it is. It's a simple pie. It's wonderful history. It's wonderful food. It's aromatic. I guarantee it. If you put this out next to pumpkin pie, this is going to go. People will be back for seconds. I just love it, and I'm glad to be working with it.
Oh, those smells! I can smell it throughout the shop.
Smell this, isn't that great?
Steve, I'm wondering, and you are the chef, would it be possible to use this as a base and then maybe put some coconut in it, kind of a coconut cream pie, maybe some banana? Can you play around with it like that?
I would think so. And what I love about that is that being the meaty guy, I knew that you would find a way to do it, almost make a quiche out of it, which would be great.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing this with potential that if you have leftover ham or you have leftover whatever, you could put that in and just bake it right in there. It'd be fine. I know that for you, you like a traditional way, and we're going to work on this
play
to
with it. Yeah,
eliminate some of these things and do it. The one thing I didn't add, and this is from our friend up the road at Rancho Gordo.
I've heard of him.
And they've got this vanilla extract that we could have added to that to even give it more aroma.
Okay.
But I didn't put it in because we had some other ingredients in it that we were playing with.
Yeah, I'm thinking we could take this base and maybe go savory or sweet. Either one?
I'm excited to try it.
Let's try it.
And
if you try it, tell us about it. Tell us what kind of things that you did. We want to know because we want you to be a part of this. I just thought about that as we were taping, and I thought, wait a second. Let's play with it a little bit. So let us know. You guys are the creative cooks out there. Let us know what you're doing with your bean pie. Well, we know we'll get comments because this is one of those dishes that we do that is like a button dish. It is a bean story all to itself. Yes. And when you research, as I did and you did, and you look at what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, there were a lot of comments below of other people who have done this kind of work. So we know there's interest in it. And we also know that this is the very first time we've done it. We're interested in it because it brings forth our beans, which are heirloom beans, along with part of America's history to make something that's delicious for families to enjoy. So I'm excited about this new opportunity for us. The versatility of beans is vast. It is. We've so many things to do. All right. Thank you, Steve. Happy Pie Day. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe.